Hey everybody, welcome to the Song Revolution podcast, brought to you by Nashville Christian Songwriters. Nashville Christian Songwriters exists to empower Christian songwriters worldwide. I'm John Chisholm, and this podcast exists to bring you valuable songwriting insights, inspiration, interviews, and just all around good fun with some of the greatest songwriters, producers, arrangers, artists, and creatives, and beyond. You can find out a whole lot more about us at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com.
Glory in the Meeting House, an old-time fiddle tune performed on the harmonica by Buddy Greene, sideman to Bill and Gloria Gaither for the last 30 years or so, and a virtuoso artist in his own right who got his start in Nashville playing acoustic guitar and harmonica for classic country artist Jerry Reed. In this episode of the podcast, I got to sit down with my old friend from my Gaither days and reminisce a little, hear the origins of some of the songs from his new recording called Looking Back that consist of originals and classic bluegrass tunes dear to Buddy's heart. We'll be sampling several of those songs as the conversation goes along, but I know that you're going to enjoy Buddy's laid-back humor and his willingness to share honestly of his own life's experiences. He even demonstrates some harmonica skills for us that might make us want to dig through a few junk drawers to find that old Hohner Marine Band harp in the key of C and try a little Camptown races just for the fun of it. He just happens to be the co-writer of the Christmas classic Mary Did You Know with Mark Lowry, so Buddy knows a thing or two about great songs, though he's pretty humble about it. I know you're going to love him, so grab a little sweet tea and set a spell in your favorite porch rocker for a little hometown harmonica on steroids with the very talented, well-traveled, and quite amazing musician, songwriter, and entertainer, my friend Buddy Greene. Buddy Greene, man, good to have you on the podcast today.
John Chisholm, good to be here.
So fun. We're in. Do you have a name for your basement studio here?
The Hole.
The Hole.
No, man cave.
Yeah.
It's just Buddy's world.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's nice, man. Thanks for being on the show today. And
good to be here.
I'm excited to reminisce a little bit. Just, you and I have known each other for a long time, since my days as VP of publishing for the Gaithers. And you were starting out with them, and a lot of time, a lot of miles have transpired since then, but here we are.
That's ancient history there.
It is, I know, right? But, just so proud of you, so excited for what God's done, and man, where do you even start, right?
It's been quite a journey, and not one I would have anticipated or planned this way or anything. But I've been pretty much self-taught through my whole life. I wish I'd have gotten some formal training along the way, but so I have learned a lot along the way, and I've been really fortunate to spend 35 plus years in a town like Nashville, where there's just so much going on, and you can absorb so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are you originally from?
Macon, Georgia.
Macon, okay.
Which is also a bit of a hotbed for music.
I was going to say.
Allman Brothers and Little Richard and Otis Redding.
Sometimes I feel, feels like I'm tied to the whipping post. Yeah, oh my, that's my childhood, man.
Mine too. Yeah, that was, when I was in high school was when the Allman Brothers moved to town. And I became a huge Duane Allman fan, and I love their music, and really started. I think they were the band that got me first band to get me interested in the roots of popular music, because they would, on an album like Fillmore East, you'd hear Greg say, "We're gonna do an old T-Bone Walker song now. Actually, it's an Elmore James song." I go, "Who are they talking about?" But it started me digging into music history a little bit, at least popular music history, and getting in touch with blues and country roots and all that stuff, which I've never gotten over.
You don't, do you?
No.
It's kind of part of the blood. I grew up in Memphis, like I said a while ago, and my older brother and I, we were into like Johnny and Edgar Winter.
Yeah.
Of course, it's ZZ Top.
So that's all Texas stuff.
Oh, Texas stuff. Yeah. Who else? There's all those kinds of just crazy blues.
Yeah, really. I mean, really from Texas all the way across the Deep South, there was just great stuff going on in the first half of the 20th century. I mean, all this musical development was taking place. Mm-hmm. And I just wasn't aware of that. I kind of thought it all started with rock and roll. And so I remember just being, in college and waking up to the fact that all music has roots. And as a big game changer for me was the album Will the Circle Be Unbroken by the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, which came out in about 71 or 72. And it was a 3-album collection of all these songs, mainly old country songs, but everything back to Carter family songs, to Earl Scruggs music and all this, but those legends were still around. You had people like Earl Scruggs and Mother Maybelle Carter, Doc Watson, Vassar Clements, all these authentic players and artists contributing to that album. And I bought it because I was a Nitty Gritty Dirt Band fan. And hearing what was, it was basically them paying homage to their heroes and having a few of them on hand to help them really create the music authentically. And it was like I say, it was a huge game changer. I heard this music that was totally organic, free of any kind of, electronic manipulation or anything. You were just hearing
they didn't have it.
Raw acoustic music.
They didn't have it back then.
It was great. So I loved it. And that made me, I was still probably playing some electric guitar and stuff at that point, but probably shortly after that, I just hung that thing up, and I've played nothing but acoustic guitar since. And
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And when did you start playing harmonica?
About that same time. In fact, Jimmy Fadden, who's the drummer and harmonica player for the Dirt Band, played a lot of harmonica on that Will the Circle album. And I was just learning, and I loved what he was doing. And so he was probably the first really big influence on me. And I still, when I listen to that album, it's just still some of my favorite harmonica playing.
Wow. So you just picked it up and taught yourself?
Yeah. I'd gotten one when I was, like 10 or 11 and couldn't figure anything out. And
do you blow out? Do you suck in?
All I knew is that I sucked more than anything else.
What do you do with your tongue? Your teeth?
Anyway, it ended up in a junk drawer pretty quickly. And I was riding around one day with a couple of friends, and actually there were 2 of us in the front seat, I remember, and 2 guys in the back, and they each had a harmonica. And they were both, I think, like key of C Marine Band harmonicas. And they were playing together and just huffing and puffing. Neither one of them knew how to do anything. And I thought, man, if those 2 bozos can get that much music out of that thing, I need to go back and dig mine out. So I did. And, by that time I had played guitar for 10 or 11 years, and I knew a little bit about music, and I could kind of figure out the way the instrument was set up. And I stumbled across a couple of little things like a train, whistle, and I started messing around with the rhythmic aspect of the instrument. But anyway, I was hooked, and it was just a matter of obsession and a lonesome life. As a college age kid, I didn't have much of a social life then, so I'd sit around and play my harmonica.
Can't get a date, so I guess it's
me and you.
The G harp or whatever.
That's right. So yeah, I was discovering the blues early on.
Yeah, right. Yeah. For good reason.
Yeah, but too, there again, I started. I had a few. There were a few contemporary influences, like all the bands, whether it's Rolling Stones or the Beatles, everybody messed around with the harmonica in their music. So John Lennon, for example, played some harmonica, especially in the earlier Beatles stuff. Mick Jagger played harmonica for the Stones, and everybody would pull one up at some point in the act and do a little something on there. Robert Plant with Led Zeppelin and all. But there again, I would hear them refer to the greats, the masters, and they were all these old blues musicians from the 30s, 40s, 50s, people like Little Walter and Sonny Boy and Sonny Taylor. Sonny and Brownie, all these different characters that were just, when I found out who they were amazing musicians. And just about every one of them, African-American, had been a part of this whole blues development of the early 20th century and mid-20th century. So there again, I was just fascinated with what had happened without me knowing anything about it. And it fueled my interest in the harmonica. So I started learning that stuff. Charlie McCoy, I was also getting interested in country music, and Charlie McCoy was, playing and elevating that instrument to a really sophisticated level for Nashville country at the time in the 70s and 80s. So he became a huge influence on me, and I really probably picked up more from his style of playing than anybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, we all have our influences, don't we? That just really impact us, kind of crystallize that sense of passion and calling that give us some motivation, right?
Yeah, they do. And, Charlie has become a good friend. We've gotten to know each other over the last 20 years or so. And mainly because I sought him out, and I was just like, if it weren't for you, I wouldn't know what to do on this instrument, and now, Charlie's in his mid-70s or so, still playing great, and I'm just still amazed at what he can do and what he's contributed. He's a Country Music Hall of Fame guy.
Absolutely.
And has played on everybody's records from Dylan to Frank Sinatra to Paul Simon, not to mention just about every country artist that came down the pike in the 70s and 80s. So it's great to have actually made contact with some of my heroes over the years too.
Absolutely. And I know you're a hero to a lot of young aspiring harmonica players.
Yeah, a few of them seek me out.
Do they? Really? Yeah. Seriously, I wasn't just kidding. Really. Is it do you think it's something that people really like? Is it a popular thing, do you think?
It's probably more popular than it's ever been. It's a bigger world than it's ever been of harmonica players. And it's kind of a worldwide network. With the internet and all, everybody can communicate and everybody can teach. When I was coming along, I could find one book that would teach me at a street level how to get started on a harmonica. I only knew of one. And now, you can go on YouTube and just find hundreds and hundreds of lessons on everything from getting started to bending a note to playing blues, playing country, Irish music, just whatever the specialty is, the question that you have about that instrument, you can dial it in and probably find somebody giving you at least a 5-minute lesson. So there's that sort of thing going on. And then there's, also organizations that span the globe that have conventions and all this sort of thing. So I had somebody the other day saying they had started a gospel harmonica society and, wondered if I would, be up for a chat online.
There you go.
At some point. I said, sure.
That works.
So,
yeah. You just don't think of it being as popular as the guitar or...
Well, it's not. It's such a specialty instrument. It's more like accordion or something,
We said it at the same
time. Banjo. how many people, you just don't have... It's not a first call instrument, but it is one that everybody seems to like.
Yeah.
For some reason or another,
Kind of makes you happy. It's kind of like, it either makes you really mad or makes you really happy. Kind of like the banjo, right?
Depending on who and how they're playing.
Exactly. And that's true about the accordion as well, or the bagpipes.
Yeah, I play with one of the greatest accordion players in the world, a guy named Jeff Taylor, and between us, we have more accordion and harmonica jokes.
I bet. Any you can share?
Oh, yeah, let's see. What's perfect pitch? You can substitute harmonica or accordion for any of these, but what's perfect pitch? That's when you can you can throw your harmonica into the wastebasket without hitting any of the sides.
Yeah, exactly. Whoosh.
What's the one he likes to tell is he was running errands one day and he had his accordion in the back seat and he pulled up and he had to run in real quick. So he rolled up the windows, and made sure the car was locked. And it was a little bit of a sketchy neighborhood, and when he got back, sure enough, there was a window broken and he looked back there and there were 3 more accordions in the back seat.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, let's talk about a song off of your brand new record, Looking Back. Which one would you like me to feature on the show?
Oh, let's see here.
And we'll do several, but which one do you want me to start with?
Well, maybe the opening song is actually a new song or relatively new. I think it was written in the last 10 or 12 years, but it had never seen light of day. And it was one of the joys of making this record was it was kind of me looking back over my life as a songwriter and as someone, all the things that have helped form me as a musician. So this song was at least started the day after I had opened up for Doc Watson for a concert in my hometown of Aiken, Georgia. And Doc was probably the most positive musical influence in my life. Still is. And so it was a huge honor to be, opening up at a concert of his. But
Absolutely.
By that time, we had met each other, and I got to play a few songs with him that night. So you can imagine I was kind of on cloud 9. And a friend of mine let me use his cabin for a couple of days. It was out in the woods on the high bluff overlooking the Okmulgee River. And I just spent a couple of days there counting my blessings and hoping a little inspiration would come. And I'm not sure if I finished this song. It was just about finished by the time I left, but it was called Brand New Day. And so it's just kind of become a special song for me.
Sweet. Hey, well, let's check it out.
All right.
Cool spring morning and it sure feels good. Sitting on the back porch and nestled in the wood. Sweet song rising from the river down below. All creation putting on a show. Oh, get away, gotta get away. Gotta give a listen to a brand new day. It's good to be still and it helps me pray. And thank the good Lord for a brand new day. Thank the good Lord for a brand new day. Looking down the river, can't believe my eyes. Fishing for his breakfast, a bald eagle fly. Oh, listen, I can hear every kind of songbird. Raise the best chorus the band ever heard. Oh, get away, gotta get away. Gotta give a listen to a brand new day. It's good to be still and it helps me pray. And thank the good Lord for a brand new day. Thank the good Lord for a brand new day.
Oh, that's fantastic, buddy. I can just tell there was a lot of inspiration in that cabin. And,
Yeah, and that really happened. The second verse talks about an eagle flying down the river, and it actually happened. I looked up and I saw this, big bird flying down the river, and I said, what is it? And all of a sudden I see this white head. It's a bald eagle flying down. I'd never seen a bald eagle in all my days of growing up in Macon, Georgia, but there was one that day.
There was.
So, I said, you got to get into the song.
Special appearance.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
But and I love it when it feels that authentic and coming out of a place of gratitude in your life that, I mean, you didn't really set out necessarily to be a songwriter. You obviously had the music thing going on and wound up, playing the harmonica and guitar and all that. But I mean, your life's been kind of a series of up levels where God's just opened doors, like you said, and
It's had some down levels too.
really.
Yeah, I've had plenty of valley experiences. I've sent myself to the valley of
Yeah, don't we all?
yeah. Actually, I mean, in a nutshell, I had those, from those early days of learning Beatles songs and Motowns and, covering whatever songs I could off the radio and having a high school band and sort of a typical scenario. And by the time I was in my 20s and graduated from college, but without any real direction, just knowing I loved music and wanted to make it whatever that was, whatever that meant. But it was a school of hard knocks because I was just playing bars and taverns and I was lost spiritually and making a lot of bad choices, life choices, and it was, thankfully I was learning something. I was learning something about the craft of my playing. I was trying to write songs. I was doing all that, probably pretty badly, because I was I don't know. I think I thought that maybe things were just going to happen by osmosis or something. And it wasn't until I moved to Nashville in my late 20s and came to a place like this and saw music being made at this really serious level that I thought, what have I been doing?
Right.
Hanging around in these bars and taverns. I was trying to make $50 a night. I know what I was trying to do. I was just trying to eke out a living. But I finally realized that, hey, I could have been doing a lot more homework. I could have been working a lot more diligently at my music and not squandering so much of my time, living like I was living. So I think there began an earnest sort of remedial school for me once I moved to Nashville. Mm. Yeah.
Wow.
And then things, I think as I got better at what I was doing and just being in a place like Nashville, like I came to the attention of a few people that could encourage me or give me an opportunity to co-write a song or even record a record, which is really what happened after about 3 or 4 years. And that was like a dream come true. I mean, back in those days, making a record, it's kind of like anybody with a laptop can make a record now. But back then, it seemed like the Holy Grail.
It was a big deal.
Yeah.
Now any kid with an iPhone, can have a song on YouTube in about a half hour.
Right. Yeah. I mean, all these things had to be in place back then. There needed to be a record company involved and a studio that was going to cost you, hundreds, if not $1,000 a day to rent. And, an engineer, and you were recording analog. And so that was a whole strange world of tape and splicing and editing and punching. And I mean, that whole process was like, it was like, it might as well have been, nuclear science.
Yeah.
But it was, so to have that opportunity afforded was just, was major for me. And thankfully it continued and has now for about 30 years, mostly as an independent artist, but.
Right.
Yeah.
But so you've wound up on Bill Gaither's stage for about the last 30 years, mm-hmm. right? And that's no small platform, dude.
Well, I know that was a big, a big benefit to, and I didn't really know what I was getting into. I didn't even hardly know who Bill and Gloria were. I was just coming into this world of Christian music. I'd recorded my first album. Bob McKenzie was he was executive producer on these records, and he was really the guy who gave me that opportunity, and was just happened to be like best friends with Bill. So he introduced us, and Bill liked the fact that I was such a blank slate when it came to Christian music. Most of my Christian influences were stuff like, hearing a gospel song on an Emmylou Harris record or something like that, Or,
the obligatory hymn on a bluegrass record.
And I love those old, and that stuff was sort of informing my songwriting. So I wasn't listening to a lot of contemporary Christian and those sorts of things, or Southern gospel even. So Bill kind of liked, this sort of artist in the raw that I was, and was curious about introducing me to his audience. And thankfully, I'd also spent the previous 4 years with one of the best country music entertainers in the business, which was Jerry Reed, and had paid attention, and he would let me open up every night. I'd do about 3 or 4 numbers with the band, as I'd sort of front the band, and then we'd bring on Jerry. So I was kind of cutting my teeth on a national platform already as an entertainer. And so all of that worked to my favor when Bill would give me the spotlight. And so, for about 5 years, I toured as a regular part of their tour. And so that meant 80 to 100 dates a year, being introduced to Bill's and Gloria's audience. And this was before the videos really had started.
Yeah, so you've been with them, traveled probably millions of miles with them, wound up at Carnegie Hall playing the William Tell Overture. Which was
that wasn't even on the schedule.
Really?
It was supposed to happen. Another serendipity. It was like that afternoon, we were standing on the stage, Bill and I, and it was like taking a break. We've been going through rehearsals. All I was going to be doing was, I was going to be one of the number on stage, with my harmonica, playing a lick every now and then with the band. And so I was standing next to Bill, and we're looking at this empty, hallowed hall, and I just said, Bill, this is so cool, He said, what? I said, here we are in Carnegie Hall. I can't believe you invited me. Thanks, He said, well, you're welcome. It's great to have you. You want to do something tonight on the show? I said, are you kidding? Do some featured? And he went, yeah. And I went, gosh, that'd be awesome. Yeah, of course I'd love to. And he go, well, what would we do? So 10 years earlier, when I was a part of his regular part of the show, we used to always have a little moment where I'd have my harmonics and he'd be standing there holding the mic, and he'd go, so Buddy, tell me a little bit about that harmonica. What can you do with that? And we'd go it was just a piece of shtick, where I'd play campfire harmonica, and then we'd do some hoedown harmonica and blues and all this. And then it would end with the William Tell Overture. And so I said, don't you remember how we used to do that? I said, now that was like a 10-minute routine, but what if we just truncated it to, you just bring me up there, and in 30 seconds, I've got, I'll make sure we're already at the William Tell Overture in 30 seconds. and then we'll do that. And either it'll work or it won't. And if it doesn't, we haven't wasted more than a couple of minutes. He goes, okay, great. I said, let's don't even rehearse it. Let's just see what happens. So it was totally unrehearsed. He just called me up there, and it turned out wonderfully. I had such a great time with him. And Bill loves being your straight man.
Yeah, he does.
And he was a great straight man for me that evening, and I just ended up having a great time, and it ended up with a standing ovation.
Oh, dude. Oh, that's
caught everybody
brilliant.
off guard. I've always told people the best thing I've got going for me is everybody's low expectations for the instrument.
Oh, man. Well, I wish we had arranged for you to do some of that on the show today. Are you comfortable doing it?
Yeah.
Hey, man. Well, let's you grab and get out of that pretty rocking chair, and if you don't mind, that'd be fantastic. I know everybody'd love to hear something.
Well, I guess the best thing about it is it's portable. Something like that.
Cool.
So the old guys could play it a whole lot better than that, but that was sort of the idea behind the design of this instrument, was to allow you to accompany yourself. this sort of blues instrument, and then people like Charlie McCoury were the ones who major innovators for country styles, like more of a country style to it. And but that's it. It's just I never ceased to be fascinated with the instrument, with all you can get out of it. It's very expressive.
Yeah, but you're an expression behind it. I mean, your personality you are expressing yourself through it. Yeah,
yeah.
So that's cool, man. And you taught yourself to do that.
Pretty much. I mean, along the way, I'd be in the presence of a really great harmonica player, and I'd just bug them till they shared a secret with me. And that's what we do. We just and really, it was talking about Nashville and what a great place it is. Nashville's. I'm not sure about other music communities, but Nashville's always been the sort of place where if you found yourself in the company of a seasoned player, they didn't mind sharing their secrets and telling you or giving you some tips. Hey, you might want to try this, or next time you're doing that, why don't you lower your E string, or just those sorts of things were really great to me, because I think I had this idea that everybody was guarding their secrets, but really the opposite's true. Most people that love their instrument, love playing it, can't wait to share. What music has helped me do, songwriting, playing my instruments and all, it's really helped me discover who I am. And that's from a personal standpoint, from my spiritual, just dealing with my own history. So there was a song called Man Against Man, which deals with racism and the need for reconciliation in the world. And being somebody born in the Deep South and growing up during the time of segregation and civil rights, and just remembering the terrible injustice of that, but also realizing that I was a part of the dominant social construct, and what does that mean to me now? And how does the gospel liberate me to see that and to live differently? All those sorts of things. So that's what feeds a song like Man Against Man.
Well, why don't we take a minute and check out that song?
There is a fiery cross, but it's not the cross of Christ. And sometimes it smolders, and sometimes it rages in the night. And whether you glimpse it or see it glaring, it's a horrible sight. 'Cause it has absolutely nothing to do with light. And it's fueled by a sin as ancient as man. And in some places I swear it's caused a curse in the land. It sends up a stench no holy God could ever stand. And it's man against man, it's black and it's white. And it's man against man, it's wrong and never right. Man against man, it's Gentile and Jew. And when it's man against man, Lord God, it's man against you. It's been disguised as preference in our rhetoric and prose, and dressed up like something else when underneath, like a cancer it grows, and unchecked it breeds corruption beneath deceptive clothes, in a vain attempt to hide what only the truth will expose. And it's bred in our fathers, passed on to their sons, in the privileged, deprived of the genius of the simpleton. It can raise its ugly head in nearly everyone. And it's man against man, it's black and it's white. And it's man against man, it's wrong and never right. Oh, man against man, it's Gentile and Jew. And when it's man against man, Lord God, it's man against you.
Yeah.
It's really awesome. Can't wait to dig into this more. And
Well, it's a lot to dig into.
Yeah.
But I mean, all of a sudden we had 18 songs, and I was like, what have I done? I've created about a $3,000 mastering bill. That's what I've done.
Yeah, that's what you did. That's what you spent some money. That's
right.
totally what you did. Well, let's talk a little bit about your amazing song with Mark Lowry, Mary Did You Know?
Okay.
I would venture to say that'd be your top copyright and the song you will be known for long after you've departed this world. So tell us a little bit about how that came to be.
Another accident. in that Mark had written those words 7 or 8 years before he gave them to me. And I think he wrote them just as a poem first, and to be a part of a Christmas musical at a church or something like that. But recognized right away that they were really a lyric. And so he started to hand them off to various people to see if they could write some music. And he never was satisfied with the results. So one night when we were touring, this would have probably been about 1990 or something like that, or 91, and he was writing in a legal pad, and he sat up there, just working on this thing for a long time. And I was thinking, wow, you never see Mark do that. I mean, he's so ADD, Here he was, concentrate, staying focused and all. And finally, he finishes, tears off this piece of paper and throws it to me and says, "See if you can come up with anything for that." So there was a lyric printed at the bottom, and at the top was this little note to me that said, "Dear Buddy, below are some incredible words I penned some years ago. Please come up with some God-inspired music and make for us a very profitable hit."
Wow. Wow.
Signed, "In the clutches of the cross, Mark Lowry."
Wow.
So I just said, "You idiot," and he went, no, this is really good. And he said, "Don't lose that." I said, "Well, I'll look at it when I get home." And because I didn't even look at the lyrics. I thought it was, coming from Mark, I figured it was going to be some novelty song or something.
Joking around.
Yeah. And about a week went by before I pulled it out and actually looked at it and saw that, wow, this is really good. And there was so many great lines in that song. And so that day I had been playing all these songs like "Shady Grove, my little love, shady grove I sing, shady grove, my little love, I'm bound to go away," which is I would have learned from Doc Watson. So I had all this minor stuff going on in my minor mode. It was already in my head, and immediately as I looked at that opening phrase, "da da 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 da," came into mind, and so I thought, well, that's okay. I'll just chase that, and I basically, if you get a good melody idea, it really is a matter of just letting the melody happen. There's a logic to it, and you just have to listen to where the melody wants to go. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And, after a couple of verses, you realize, first of all, Mark had written such a well-crafted lyric. 2 verses, bridge, verse. It was the kind of song structure I like. And after 2 verses, it needed that release. It needed a bridge. And so there were all these, there was everything there that I need in a lyric. Gloria Gaither's been somebody I've written a couple songs with too along the way, and she's a type that gives you something so complete to work with that it's really easy then to come up with musical ideas and run with them. So within a half an hour or so, I had, basically written what the music for that, and I called Mark up and played it over the phone, and he loved it, and he said, "I'm going to be in town." He was living in Atlanta at the time, and he said, "I'm going to be in Nashville in a couple of days. Let's make a little boombox demo, and I'll take it over to Mike English, who was looking for songs for his new record, for his first record." So that's exactly what we did. I went down to his hotel room, and we had a little boombox and a cassette, and I recorded my little folky version. By this time, I'd finished finished it up pretty well, and I did my little rendition, and he ran it over to Michael, who gave it to Brown Bannister, who was producing, and Brown liked it, and I think it was the second single from that first album of Mike's.
Wow. That's incredible.
So, yeah.
I didn't remember that Brown had done that.
Mm-hmm.
So since then, it's been recorded by people like Kathy Mattea, Kenny Rogers and Wynonna, Natalie Cole, Clay Aiken, CeeLo Green, I didn't know that, Rascal Flatts, Mary J Blige, that's great, Pentatonix, that's amazing.
And a great version. I mean, all of those are great versions. And but yeah, it's just been an amazing amount of just top tier artists who have recorded that, and then I mean, just really great. I mean, the Isaacs have one of my favorite versions of the song. Gary Chapman did a great version of the song back in the 90s. There's all these good versions of that song out there, and a lot of great different types of treatment. There's even a heavy metal version of.
No
Mary,
kidding.
I don't know who the band is,
kidding.
but I heard it one time, and it was like, Mary, did you know?
That hurts.
All right.
I think I just hurt myself.
I mean, when I heard CeeLo was doing it, all I knew about CeeLo was he was in the world of hip hop. And I thought, well, buckle your seatbelts. You're going to hear your first hip hop version of Mary, Did You Know? But his version is this beautiful, orchestrated version. It's one of the most beautiful renditions out there. He sings wonderfully on it, and so yeah, I'm thankful that it's to be part of a song that translates in so many ways.
Absolutely, and I think it's the mark of a classic. And one of my favorite Gaither quotes, I've worked with them for about 7 years, was with a rewrite, a good song can become a great song. And with a rewrite, a great song can become a classic. So you've really, I don't know how many times you guys rewrote it, but maybe not at all, but it came out. Maybe it was born a classic.
Well, that's why I say it was an accident. In fact, Mark, after the song became popular, we had a bunch of good cuts on it. Mark called me, this was 4 or 5 years later, and he goes, hey man, we need to write another one of those. And I said, phase it, Mark. It was a fluke. We'll never do that again.
You got your profitable song, so just be happy, right?
Be grateful that you got one.
Oh man, well that's fantastic. On behalf of myself and the world, we're very, very thankful for the fluke and for just the amazing blessing that's has been. So, so back on your new record, let's share one more song, and then I want to come back for our closing segment to just talk about maybe your songwriting process a little bit, apart from Mary, Did You Know? And also if there's anything that you would have to share with our listeners that are mostly aspiring songwriters, but we have some other listeners that are not necessarily aspiring, but it would be interesting to hear from you along those lines. So off the record here.
Well, let's see. Grace for the Moment is a song that I wrote with Tricia Walker, and it's another one of those that I have good memories about this song.
Okay.
The writing of it was one of those times. Tricia and I think we maybe have gotten together a couple of times to try to write. I'm very shy in the process of co-writing. I hate to just start writing stuff and throwing it out there because if it sounds bad to me, I know it's going to sound terrible to that person across from me. But I'm just so self-conscious. So I think this was the first time we ever tried to write, and I said, hey, I'll let you look at my little folder of ideas if I can look at yours, And so we're going through our little snips of paper and all, and I come across this. I think it was actually something she'd written in pencil on an envelope, and it just said, "Grace for the moment, all that I need. Grace for the moment, and faith to receive the promises given to those who believe. Grace in the moment, all that I need." I thought, I love that, Tricia. That sounds like a chorus. Can I work with that? And she said, yeah. So I took it home and wrote some music, and and wrote some verses. And it was a song. To me, what she was talking about was that I think this was just becoming apparent to me in a real way for the first time, that grace is not just the thing that we need to get our salvation, and then we're done. But grace is the starting point, and it's like that's what's going to define us for the rest of our lives. Once you've received this amazing grace that John Newton wrote about, then you're going to realize that that's what you need every breath, every day of your life, and that's what God is so gracious to give, is continued grace, mercy, and becomes clearer and clearer, I think, as you get older and you realize just how hard life is and how impossible it is to love the way you want to love, or to deal with trials the way you want to, or to and on those trials, I mean, that can be anything from, realizing, wow, I got cancer, or I'm going through a divorce, or I just lost one of the dearest people in my life. What am I going to do with this sadness? All those kinds of things. To, how am I going to survive this bankruptcy? I mean, it just goes on and on. This is the stuff life's made of. And so this song was really speaking into that. This is why we need to belong to this God who's bigger than all of this. And
awesome.
Who promises to be there and to give us what we need. So that was what the song was meaning to me, and that's what we wrote. And I think over the years I've gotten enough mail or just responses from people to say, boy, that I heard that song and it was just what I needed. It just reminded me that God is there. His grace is sufficient.
Amen. All right, Buddy Greene, Grace for the Moment.
Grace for the moment, all that I need. Grace for the moment, faith to receive all the promises given to those who believe, and grace for the moment, all that I need. When I fret over outcomes that I cannot see, it's for certain I'll not have the peace meant for me. But when with thanksgiving I just look to Him, He will answer me time and again. With grace for the moment, all that I for the moment, and faith to receive all the promises given to those who believe, and grace for the moment, all that I
Wow, man, that's just stunning, and I can really see why people would respond to that, and because we all do need grace in the moment and for the moment and for all the moments of our lives.
Yeah, I love that song too, because it's one of my best co-writing experiences, and I have to admit that probably the co-writes are the songs that have. I mean, I've written a lot of songs just by myself. Man Against Man being one, for example. But I think the co-writes have been the ones that have found more response.
Yeah,
out there. They Yeah, I mean, Mary Did You Know, for example.
Really? Hey, I've been trying to get you to co-write with me. I got some bluegrass things.
I know. I'm so, my writing is, I wouldn't say it's all gone, but it took a really different turn about 2000 or so. And I started, I really pulled back from trying to write songs for a project. For 15 years, I'd just been trying to write songs for the next record, that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, I just wasn't motivated to write like that anymore. But I was motivated to come up with like a new music setting for an old hymn lyric,
sure,
or something like that.
Yeah.
Or to be, one day to find myself on the back porch of a cabin and go, gosh, look, there's an eagle. I think I'll write a song. And so I think that's what it's been. Most of my writing in the last 10 or 15 years has been very sporadic, but and not so intentional, almost accidental, and competing with a lot of other things I'm doing, like just working on my instruments and learning other songs.
And that's great. Well, you've already admitted to me earlier that you're not a big social media guy. So
I'm miserable.
How do you like to interact with your fans? I mean, I
don't do it very well. I tell you, Ann Campbell is my assistant, and she's pretty good at sending me, if people have questions for me, and they can just email me, buddy@buddygreen.com. And she will send them to me. And I mean, I have to admit, I get on my email about every 2 or 3 days. I am not a computer person.
Jeez.
I mean, what I'd rather do is pick up a book and read it, or pick up a harmonica and learn a new fiddle tune, or my guitar. And so I'm always behind in correspondence and in trying to get back to people. But sometimes I do. I mean, sometimes I've answered an email that was a year and a half old. So,
man, I'd forgotten about it by then.
Well, I'm just going to try to get rid of something. I'll say, gosh, I really wish I'd answered that
John
one.
Chisholm, he emailed me a year and a half ago.
So the first paragraph is me apologizing for being such a negligent, delinquent communicator. But I'm trying to get better at it. But really, the other thing, it takes up a lot of time.
Yeah, it does.
It really does take up time, and time is pretty precious to me now. So the older I get, the more I realize that exercise thing has never been more important for me as a musician.
Sure.
I mean, I have to, if I want to have any kind of chops when I get on a stage, I got to play just about every day.
But can people see where you're touring? Do you have a website?
Yeah, I have a website, which is just buddygreen.com.
And that's with an E, Green with an E.
Green, And there's always a calendar that's usually pretty up to date. And I need to write a new newsletter. I think the last newsletter in there is from about a year and a half ago.
About the time you answered that last email. Well,
right.
Well, what are you excited about coming up? Are you touring or someplace you're going to be? Or
well, let's see. I'm excited about this record being out, and we're just sort of. I'm hoping this year to put together a bluegrass band to kind of help me do at least 2 or 3 events where I can recreate this on a stage.
Nice.
And then maybe do some videos or something like that to kind of help market it and get the word out about it. So that's kind of been my focus lately. I'm going to, I've got a few travels, but I'm actually trying to travel a little less these days, stay a little closer to home, and be a little bit more of a regional player.
Gotcha.
It's easier getting on a plane and traveling places and renting cars.
I know, right?
Sheesh.
Not
I'm
glamorous.
not getting any younger. So,
tell you what. But you're looking good, buddy. You're looking good, man. You're hanging
I found
in.
that if I spend my whole day traveling, that I complain all the way there, and then I'm so tired and worn out that I'm not much good for getting on stage. So I'm staying a little closer to home this year, traveling a little bit.
All right. But people can check your website to find any dates. And well, you guys be sure and go check.
I was going to say, I'm taking a cruise with the Gaithers in early March, and I think there might still be a space or 2 on there. So if anybody's ever wanted to go on a boat that was full of nothing but Gaither and gospel music fans, and go to the Caribbean,
There you
it's
go.
a really fun time. So
going to the Caribbean's good any way you go.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Especially at the end of a long, hard winter.
I tell you what. All right. So your record, Looking Back, is available on iTunes, and
I don't think it's hit iTunes yet. Right now, it's sort of pre-released. It's just available through buddygreene.com.
Okay, good to know.
And within a month or so, we'll be putting it on out there on the media outlets. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good to know. So if you're liking what you've been hearing today, and Buddy, you need to be thinking about what song are we going to go out on now as we kind of close out our show. If you guys want to get in touch with Buddy, you got to go to Buddy at buddygreen.com, and Ann will probably answer that email long before Buddy will ever see it, but you will at least be able to get in touch and find out where Buddy's going to be and information about this brand new album called Looking Back. So what song do you want to go out on today?
The last song on the record is a song by the Reverend, what's his name? I'm having a blank. He was a great. Is
it in your liner notes?
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Save, man. That's a big save. I just saved a moment, an awkward moment here. It's like writing a song and you can't
Reverend Gary
remember it.
Davis.
There you go.
All right. So he's Samson and Delilah, and If I Had all these great songs. But this was a Reverend Gary Davis song. I first heard Mavis Staple do a great version of this a few years ago. But I just loved it, and to me, it sort of sums up my life as a harmonica player who's just looking for somebody to give me 8 bars in the song somewhere to blow.
There you go. What's the name of it?
It's called I Belong to the Band.
I Belong to the Band. All right, Buddy Greene, man, thanks so much for being here today on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, John.
Yeah.
Well, you can watch the sun, how steady she run. Don't let it catch you where your work undone. Joshua, the son of Nun. Great God Almighty, won't you stop the sun? Well, God spoke to Joshua to do thy will. He said, you fight the battle, the sun stands still. He gave me a letter, he told me to go. He gave me a harp and he told me to blow. Lungs away, give them back the coming day. Oh, when I get to heaven, gonna put on my shoes, walk around heaven and spread the news. Well, I got news, good news. I belong to the band. Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. I belong to the band. Hallelujah. We're talking about, I'm talking about that union band. I belong to the band. Hallelujah. Oh, hallelujah. Hallelujah. I belong to the band. Hallelujah. When I get to heaven, gonna sit right down, ask my Lord for my starry crown. I belong to the band. Hallelujah. Oh, praise Him.
Thanks for listening in today on the Song Revolution podcast. If you're wanting to take your songwriting to the next level, be sure to jump over to NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com right now to check out all the valuable resources that we have there for you, especially NCS membership, where you can go deeper into a community of like-minded songwriters and tap into encouraging blogs, videos, powerful masterclasses, and a whole lot more to get you where you really want to go. I'll see you next time.